deliberation on a number of topics, but felt comfortable bringing forward the budget as we had at the public hearing. So, this evening, there are two by members, Mike Anderson up to my left, and Carol Howell to my right. We appreciate you being here tonight. I wanted to start by, some of you were at the public hearing, but I wanted to start by going back and looking at the budget as we have it right now in this fiscal year, 2020-21, because it's germane to what developed in the proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22. So we've got Christine. Okay, so as we developed this budget, there was a total budget with an increase of 2.35%. And to meet that budget, which you can see there over 20 million, we had a mill rate levy at 29.5. Now, we didn't have a referendum last year because of the pandemic, and the mill rate was levied by the Board of Finance, and that is an increase of 0.5 mil over the previous fiscal year, which is 29. That represented a 1.7% increase. In this current year, we had a number of issues. One, continued debt management, relative to the school modernization program, which I'm sure some others, and continuing to invest in our school district. This was important, and I think Christine Wagner will probably talk more about it, but it was really so to really support the School of Choice Initiative. School of Choice Initiative was bringing in children from other towns outside our district to attend school here in North Stonington. Taking great pride not only in the results that we would have in developing our students. As you know, we're a school with distinction in the state, but for them to enjoy brand new facilities that are state of the art, and I would say the highest quality in terms of health standards for both elementary children and middle school children. But you can see that, though it was a tough year, we all agree that the pandemic year, we still wanted to continue to make investments in our town, as well as meet debt obligations that had already been agreed upon by the residents of the town by referendum. Next slide. This is a little more of a review of the numbers. You can see what the total approved expenditures were, 20.7 million. And our revenue for this current fiscal year, 20.3 million. So it was obvious we had a shortfall in revenue. And that shortfall was satisfied by taking from our undesignated fund. We have a policy in place where we can use the undesignated to mitigate taxation, to balance our budget, and that's exactly what we did. So relative to the numbers to this year, that 440,000 represents 0.8 million. So we took money from the undesignated. It chose not to increase the mill rate to the residents because of the struggling time we had relative to the economy and its impact from the pandemic. It's important to note that our outstanding debt, this includes projects, the major ones being the Emergency Management Center and our community schools, is at 26.7 million. Our percentage of debt service through expenditures, in other words, how much are we spending to manage the debt relative to our total expenditures, is at 5.8%. which is a low number. Our current unassigned balance is at $3,021,855, still healthy. So for this current year we're in, represents 14.56% of our expenditure budget. As I said, the mill rate to support all of that was at 29.5. We can go to the next slide. Redemption of debt. You know, it showed you what the number was, 26.7 million. And this large part of that is the school modernization program, which gave us a brand new middle high school, gave us a renovated as new elementary school. As we brought that program forward in concept and ultimately to referendum, if you remember, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, a number of referendums. But in our discussion, bringing it forth to the residents of the town, it was projected that it would be a cost of $2.5 to $3.5 million to support that total project. As it turns out, I'm happy to report that the mill rate that satisfies the debt on those two mill rates comes in at 2.05. So the numbers we're looking at in terms of the mill rate have in them the already approved amount for debt redemption, which is 2.05 million. It's an important thing. Next. Okay, so that brings us to our proposed budget. And you can see that the total budget proposes an increase of 2.08%. And if we look at, okay, how do the dollars fall? More large amounts is in the debt redemption line, which had an increase of 14.84%. That amount is in what I just demonstrated to you for the total project. In terms of general government, as we look at their operating and capital, it's almost a wash. There is zero budget. And we continue to invest in our school education with an increase of 1.78%. Okay, similar to that last chart I showed you in review, this is what 2021-22 looks like. So our proposed expenditures are up. Our projected revenue for the upcoming fiscal year just slightly over 21 million. Again, you can see that there's a shortfall. And to cover that shortfall, the Board of Finance authorized taking the draw from our MSAC of 184,703. Again, to balance the budget and to help mitigate taxation of our residents. Outstanding debt, it stays about the same as well as our debt service. It does drive down our unassigned balance unencumbered to 2.8 million, or it shows it was a little over 3 million. Our percent fund balance for expenditure budget still healthy at 13.4%. And we're proposing the mill rate to support this budget to be at 28.8. As I haven't discussed tonight, but certainly I took a lot of time developing in the public hearing, was the revaluation that happened in 2020. Happy to report that what we saw was an increase in the value of homes in North Stonington. I think certainly brought on by the investments we've made in town. It helped our grandness grow by 8%. And we have gone 10 years with literally no growth in our grandness. Our last grandness valuation was in 2010. Take you back in time, that was in the trough of the Great Depression in Chapman in 2008, 2009. So we've accomplished a lot in town. relative to having, and I don't say it lightly, a damaged brand list, where home values literally plummeted. Taxation was against house prices that were valued in the Great Depression, 2010. It's taken us 10 years to start to bring it back, and doesn't bring it back fully. So we've lost $100 million in our grand list since 2010. And we're not quite there yet with the evaluation in 2020. So I think in terms of where we are in the town, fiscally stable, very responsible, and we continue to make investments in our town that benefits all. But the reference our plan of conservation and development, I think we have been conservative. And that we don't, the investments that we've made, improvement trajectory we've been on, lend itself to development of town. I think already you're starting to see small business, new small businesses starting to crop up with the thought that maybe more will happen and lend itself even more so to the grand list as we move forward. But I will leave it there. I'm here for questions, and we look forward to those questions and hope to answer them appropriately. So next up is going to be Christine Wagner, our chairwoman of the Board of Ed. Christine.
The first thing I wanted to do is just start with a little bit of the year in review. I'd like everybody to know what's been going on at the school. It certainly has been an unprecedented year. So I've got, we'll go to the next slide. I don't know if everybody can see this in the audience, but at home they should read it. We moved to a full distance learning model March 12th, 2020. We had about 3 days, central office administration to pull together laptops to distribute to our entire school force. Google Classroom was adopted by the teachers, and we were up and running on a distance learning model within days, much ahead of many districts around us. The Board of Ed had already approved the one-on-one program, and we were able to order through the first CARES grant over 400 Chromebooks by the end of the year. That first grant that we received from the state was about $37,000. The state then provided us another grant of 100 Chromebooks that we received right away. We were also donated by somebody in the town another 10 Chromebooks. Drive-up meals were provided. The social workers were reaching out to our students. Teachers were online daily, reaching out, emailing, talking to parents, making sure that no student was left behind. It was really an amazing, amazing thing to see. Then we started the reopening task force in June. So we had things coming from the Department of Education on a daily basis. Peter was in conference calls probably 6 to 8 hours a day, just trying to figure out now what do we do in this COVID world and how do we get our kids back if possible. We reviewed that plan over 25 times and got to where we are today. We returned to a full 4A learning on February 22nd, when we were 5 days in by March 29th. Again, much ahead of many districts around us. We should be really proud of our administrators and our central office for making it happen. Our nurses have been absolutely amazing at contact tracing, reaching out to families, keeping our kids safe. They literally are working 24 hours a day. I know our nurses on Christmas Eve were doing contact tracing this year. It's just been incredible to see. So the Board of Ed continued doing budget reviews throughout the year. CARES Act grant money provided us another $83,000 this year, and it will do the same next year. We used it all this year for PPE, custodial supplies, and we bought additional desks for the younger kids. We did dividers, we bought disinfectant sprayers to do deep cleaning, and just continue to provide the PPE that was necessary to keep our students safe. We signed a new administration contract this year, and within that contract, that allows us to reevaluate the need principal at the elementary school. The Board of Ed recognized that adding another administrative position just was not physically able to happen at this time. So we were able to realign our special ed director position to include elementary administrative responsibilities without adding another position. We also reviewed our bus contract to appreciate some savings that when we weren't using transportation as much during full distance learning. School choice contracts were also signed with Voluntown and Preston during COVID. 7 students will be attending this fall from both of those schools. Go to the next slide. So then we start our budget season. We started in January. Here's what we know going in, and this slide is not new to anybody, but we'd like to show it just to remind you. Our salaries and taxes increased 2.36% over last year's full budget. Our employee benefits decreased about $17,000. So the overall contractual impact to our budget would be a 2.24% increase over last year's budget. 97% of our budget is in salary, benefits, and fixed costs. That leaves us 3% for instructional supplies, textbooks, for technology, for art, for libraries. So you can see we don't have a lot of discretionary spending to work with over our contractual obligations. Next slide. Our administration worked with our superintendents and our business manager to develop a zero-based budget. The educational needs of contractual obligations presented to the Board of Ed was a $14,726,838 need. This resulted in a 4.3% increase over last year's budget. We've been working closely with the Board of Finance, asking for guidance, and they asked us to come forward with a target around 1.3%. So we knew 4.3 was not going to get us where we needed to be. Go to the next slide. So the question is, how do we get there and still supply the super education that our children have learned to love and that they deserve? We did a full evaluation of our resources, as we are ongoingly doing every year, and we looked at what our funding options were. We strategically worked to restructure and reallocate our resources. We reevaluated the budget cutting of any line items that are not a guaranteed expense. Anything that might be anticipated was removed. We reallocated spending in 3 areas. We looked to the CARES Act grant that we're anticipating for next year for $83,000. We looked at our savings in transportation. We looked to use the non-lapsing account for anything that was considered contractual so that we wouldn't raise up our budget. This resulted in over $355,000 in reallocations and reductions. We were able to fund all of our needs and still bring our increase down to 1.78%. Go to the next slide. Okay. So she'll pull it up real quick. Just a couple of things I wanted to show you was really if you could just show the money's coming in. This would be the only one we're going to look at. It's important that the town sees what revenue the school's bringing in. Sometimes I think people think it's just an expense, and there's a lot of money that comes into the town revenue. This year, the educational cost sharing from the state did not go down as anticipated. So we received $2.5 million, just over $2.5 million revenue that goes directly to the town. We're expecting $57,000 in tuition payments. 2 of the students that are coming in, those tuitions are paid in arrears. So we'll see 57 this year, and then at the end of the next year, we'll get another 2 students. We We have money from adult education that comes directly to the town. And then you'll also see we have federal title money, ID grants, and this year we're expecting CARES Act, SR2 money of $83,000 coming in from COVID relief. So it's that is important to show that as well. I welcome any questions and hope we can support our budget.
Thank you, Christine. Can everybody hear me if I don't use the microphone? Can everybody hear me or no? Well, that's why I was thinking about it, because I think they might be able to hear better, but can you hear me, Joe? No? Can't hear with the microphone, can't hear either way. I'm gonna kind of stand over here and speak loudly, and maybe that'll be the best I can do. I will just get off topic and say that we will be at the media center for meetings pretty soon, once we can be, and the acoustics are better in there, but because of the COVID, we're here with the kind of the not the greatest acoustics. So but thank you to the school for giving it to us. We do appreciate it. I just want to start off by highlighting a couple of just some of the accomplishments. So I think it's important that taxpayers understand where their money has gone over the last year. And that we do have many things to be proud of. Even in this year that was COVID, we actually a lot of things got done. So you can see some pictures up here. We had some solar projects in their final stages. In fact, the final stage of the big solar RFP we put out happened about 3 weeks ago on the school year. You can see the panels going up on the Emergency Services Center. Boom Bridge was open, which was a really big deal. Obviously, that was 13 years in the making, so we're really proud of that. Next slide. No. So we moved voting over to the media center, as many of you are aware, and that's been a great thing for us to have more space and a more better environment for our voting to happen. As Chairman Spring alluded to, we had revaluation this past year, which is an every 10-year process for a major revaluation. So that was completed. We did close out the 3-bay garage at the Emergency Services Center, and actually that project came in under budget completely. So that's a closed out project now, which is great. We did a pretty large culvert replacement on Babcock Road. We received some steep money for paving in Meadowwood and Cedar Ridge. You can see some pictures of some of that up here. Some other things that were exciting, kind of talked about, Dan, I think, talked about in his comments. The fact is we opened our elementary school last year. So that kind of completed the big school building renovation projects. And you can see a picture of the new playground at the elementary school. While the town can't take credit for most of that, we did help a little bit, but really the PTO was behind that. And so I think that was an exciting thing for the town. It's not always about all what the town does itself, but as the community coming together. So a lot of cool things like that happening. We did get a feasibility study done at the John Dean Gallup House, which is the property over on Hewitt Farm. So we received a grant for that. And we actually are likely to get a couple of more grants to actually do some work over there on that really important piece of history that we have here in North Stonington. We did receive a technical assistance grant for $4,500 as well recently, and a couple other things. We are 90% done with our housing plan, so that's something we need to do as well, and we're almost done with that plan for the town. And we're working on an update of our WPCA Water Pollution Control Authority plan right now. I think we also, Dan also kind of talked about some of the exciting things happening from a business perspective here in North Stonington. And we have been busy, and we are thankful for those who've chosen North Stonington as their home. So we did once again score a town index score of #2 in Connecticut for business development, which was pretty exciting. We are investing in municipal properties, as we kind of talked a lot about. And we've always said, when we invest in ourselves, others will invest in us, and we are seeing that now, which is exciting. We added additional uses to the HC zone to facilitate development of vacant land. So again, planning and zoning continuously busy trying to make sure we have development where we want it, not where we don't want it, and taking those steps. We have addressed blight in different areas, as you may have seen. We're trying to get things cleaned up in different areas of town. We'll continue to maintain roads and other infrastructure. Some specifics, we have about $23 million worth of construction approved right now. And approximately this year, building and land use fees collected are $220,000. So a lot of that has to do with some large solar project, like we know. There's been a couple of those. We haven't gotten fees from one of them, which is still in process, but we have other projects that are happening. But just other projects that are happening in town. We've got 12 new homes approved and 9 completed from the past couple of years, 10 new businesses and 3 new constructions, and 1 home occupation, and 3 expansions. So, you know, we have development is happening here, which is exciting. So as we get into the budget itself, a couple of things to just highlight about the budget. So we did have some one-time reductions in revenue, and Dan talked a little bit about how the Board of Finance was addressing that through this budget. We do have a 2% increase in labor contracts. As you are aware, or maybe you're not aware, we did hire a grant writer last year, and we moved that position from B103 to B114, just to have more transparency as to that position itself. There is an increase for the Wheeler Library. For those who heard the Wheeler Library's presentation, we are underfunding our library as you look at other towns pretty severely. So we're trying to make up ground on that as best we can and kind of balance it a little bit. But and we did increase the salary for wetlands enforcement officer to assist the zoning enforcement inspection. So it helps out in land use. We have a lot of needs there. So that's an important addition as well. I just wanted to highlight the new capital fund project funding, not because I'm excited about it, because it's pretty minimal. We definitely feel like we have more needs, but we also recognize that this is a year where we're trying to balance the shortfall in revenue and not have a major impact to taxpayers. So we do have 2 things that we funded for new capital project funding this year. Plan of conservation and development, which is something we need to do every 10 years as well. So we have to start that process. That's not going to fund the whole POCD, but it gives us some money to get started, which needs to start this year. And some flight and mapping. We need to do some aerial mapping of the town. Again, this isn't going to get us the whole thing done by any means, but it gets us started on being able to start that. And I won't get into the things that we pulled out of the budget at this point. As you can see, it's a very lean capital budget, and I'll go over the specifics at the end. I talked about the grant writer, and I think it's important that we talk about the fact that we're now receiving grants we otherwise wouldn't have received without this grant writer. And we have been awarded anyway about $336,000 in grants. We haven't accepted them all, but we have received them, and we actually just recently received another one this week from the Community Foundation to help match the work we're doing on the lakes. To help mitigate more of the invasive species there. So we're pursuing grants when we think that they match our needs, and we're really happy about the work that our grant writer has been doing to help us in those initiatives. Again, a little bit more about some of the grants. We also have received some COVID-19 relief funding, and we had COVID-19 expenses that we needed to use the funds for some of this funding. We do expect that there's going to be more funding. We know about American Rescue Package funding that's going to be coming forth. We don't have the details as to how specifically that will be used yet, but we have an idea. So none of that is included in this budget. And once we know more information on that, we'll be bringing that forward to talk more as a town about how those funds would be expended. Just a little bit of history here on the general government budgets. I think it's important to note that, we haven't seen any substantial increases. And this year is no different. Since 2018, which is the largest increase we had of 3%, you know, you're seeing 1%, actually a negative number there on 2020, 2%, and then, you know, the 1% that we'll see this year. As Chairman Spring said, and he was talking about the debt, and it's also good to see a picture of debt. And again, we aren't anywhere near the amount of debt we could have as a town. I think we've been very conservative. And we certainly finance projects, these couple of projects that we have in town, the school, emergency services center. Those are things that you would expect to finance over a long-term period of time. So you can see when the debt started coming on the books in 2018, the big leap there of 175%, because we really didn't have much debt at the time, which was good. And then now you're seeing kind of the last tranche of that debt coming on the books this year. So that's why you see the 14% increase in debt, which is really makes up the big nugget for the increase for the general government budget. Again, capital, I kind of already went over this, but you can see, you know, we're really not funding our capital to the level that we need to, and I think you'll see next year this cannot continue. But I think we all made sacrifices and compromises this year, kind of knowing what we were in for, knowing that we had the revaluation, you know, knowing where the budget was at. You know, the Board of Finance was looking for ideas, and we were trying to be creative. So you can see a reduction of $67,000 in capital this year. So with that being said, you can see the total budget, which I think Dan might have pulled up in his presentation. So when you take education into account, you're looking at a 2% overall increase in the budgets for the town of Stonington with what is being presented to you tonight. With regards to public comment, you want me to cover this, or you want to? Okay. Just so people on the phone know, so everyone would be on Zoom. I don't think there was a phone number to call in, so you just raise your virtual hand if you have a question, and Lisa will recognize you who's moderating the meeting. And we're just asking everybody, as I think Lisa said in the first part of her commentary, 2 minutes for comments at the time, and I'll turn it back over to the moderator.
Okay, at this time, I can open up the floor for discussion. So first I have to ask for a motion and a second to approve the call for discussion. Is there a motion on the floor? Bill Ricker, Sean Murphy seconds the motion. All in favor of further discussion, say aye. Opposed? I'll just remind everyone to limit your comments to 2 minutes, and you're welcome to come up. Any comments? No. Brian, you recognize?
Nobody else gets up, I have one comment anyways.
So your name and address.
Brian Rathbun, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. Hello. Hello. All right. Brian Rathbun, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. Okay. How's that?
Start you over.
Anyways, I went to a lot of meetings. It's kind of a repeat what I've said before, except when I have a few questions. And I keep hearing about 2010, how the housing market went down. There it is. It was in 2020. We had pandemic. People lost their jobs, people were out of jobs. Even the federal government recognized it by giving out the stimulus and helping people. Most of us personally had to watch our own budgets, save our pennies, get into our piggy banks. So I don't know why the town's not doing it. Haven't really seen it. We had a hearing that not many people attended. Recommendations were made by the people who were here. See too many of them follow. I know it's a difficult job for Board of Finance. And I think one of the jobs they gotta do is look at how much the town takes in, and just spend that money, not try to spend more than we take here. That we have in town, keep hearing, oh, it's not too much, well, I'll tell you, to me, it's a heck of a lot. The senior citizen on some fixed income, when you got to that line, boom, that got to be used right away, go fancy bucks. Come to the Board of Education budget, oh, don't touch that. They tell me that this, well, at the time, it's 95% contractual obligations. Well, they were giving out too much contractual obligations. Between 2010 and 2020, businesses had to cut back on their places. They stopped some of the retirement benefits for people. They took away some of the insurance, had to pay for themselves. Took away dental, that was one of the big first ones. These things might have to be looked at before education. I don't grudge our kids an education. That's what I want to give them, just an education, just like I had.
Mike Anderson, the receiver. Formerly 390 South. I just want to commend Board of Education and especially the teachers, the year that we went through, and the job you did. As a parent, I have two daughters, one in high school, one in elementary school. Time that the teachers put in to continue to educate our children just cannot be commended enough. I hope that people at home, considering voting on this budget, certainly approve the education budget. We have contractual arrangements that need to be addressed, and we are not in a position to start cutting teachers when the education program in this town is starting to be a revenue generator. As Christine said, we have a guarantee of $57,000 revenue coming into this town from the 5 students that are paying for this year. We also have about $22,000 that should come in at the end of the year for the 2 other students that are compressing the arrears. So taking money away from education at this time is just not a smart thing to do. We have to move forward. There are going to be increases. We all have cost of living increases every year, roughly around 3%, or lower than that. We're proposing here for this budget. So I just encourage everybody at home to vote yes to these budgets. Put a lot of time in. And have tried to mitigate that with still using the undesignated fund, not raising the mill rate. The mill rate is going to be lower this year than it was last year.
Bill Ricker, Wyasset Road. Senior citizen, no kids in the school system, and we are in total support of what the teachers have done this year, the direction that the board and the administration have given to them. We followed this in the media. We have seen how much these teachers have given to their students. I absolutely applaud what you have done. And I'm proud to give every penny that we are giving for education from our limited resources. Thank you.
Thank you. For the teachers.
Senior citizen. I'm asking everybody's support. In town, reinstating the selectmen's budget. And putting their salary in and adding the 2% increase we put down. The senior years that I am, we spent a hell of a lot of years building this up, where we could have a full-time selectman and continue our government as we should have to support our citizens. Just a quick thing, I'm gonna be up more than 2 minutes at a time. I've got quite a few things tonight. Cost of running a government based on first selectman salary. 15 towns surveyed, excuse me, with a similar population and area of arts. The highest is Bethany. First selectman salary 84,706, population 5,400. Total cost of that town to run their government, $242,934. The lowest is Columbia. First selectman salary was $12,078. Population 5,385. The total cost to run that government, $324,842. North Stonington. First selectman salary, you can keep it at $50,000. Total cost of government to run it is $164,110. Damn near the bottom. If you put it back to where it was, $64,948, the cost of running the town government would be $179,058. None of the above figures were considered with the second and third selectmen. 11 out of 15 towns have a higher wage than first selectmen. Bethany, with their town running at $242,934, they have a first selectman, they have an administrative financial person, a secretary, and other people help.
Finish your comments.
Right?
Finish your comments.
Columbia, first selectman, town manager, administrator, financial person, secretary, and other. North Stonington, first selectman, and we see this administrator, financial, and we have a secretary. If we add the second and third selectman to the budget, which is Bethany, I don't know what they have 242,000, like I told you, and the other town, those Columbia 324. We could put our second and third selectmen in there, and we'll still be only spending 169,000, and what it was before was 184. That figure there is the lowest of every family in this town. I spent a lot of years in this town, 50 years. We're going to put it back. And I'm asking everybody here, everybody at home, and anybody here, put it back or turn it down.
At 337 Main Street, my only comment is I just got word that they can't understand a single word online. Somebody at home says they can't understand the word. So
Anyone else have anything?
I've had a few text messages. People just have to speak up. We are unfortunately have bad acoustics in here. There's nothing we can do about it. So if you speak up, they can hear. I heard when I was speaking, people heard, and I speak pretty loudly. So if everybody could just try to speak up. The folks at home will be able to hear a little bit better.
Northwest corner road. Thank you all. I trust you to be as careful and diligent as you can be. But, is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Any comments on one?
I just wanted to say thank you. I hope you all have done the best job you can. Very honest.
So with them not being able to hear at home, should,
They can if they speak louder.
okay.
Sean Murphy, Kingswood Drive. I just wanted to clarify some things that really haven't been said pertaining to the first selected salary. This number that you see in the budget for the first selected reflects keeping the first selected salary the same through November 20th, the end of the current term. Afterwards, it changes it to a $50,000 a year salary. And that's based on what was presented years ago, having the first selectman salary becomes something less than a full-time position. When we added the position of admin finance officer at that time, it was presented in such a way that stating that once we had that position on board, once we had a turnover term or whatever, that the first selectman salary could go to part-time. And I don't know whether you have ever tried to find a first selectman at town hall, but very few hours are spent by that town hall. It's not requiring a selectman, first selectman, to be at town hall on a full-time basis as we had before gaining the admin finance or finance officer position. Thank you.
Lisa, I'd like to comment. Thank you for the comments, and I think I'd like to give a little clarity to that. Not as it relates to my position there. I don't think there's any question about the work that's been done. But a couple of things. First of all, it's ironic that our former first selectman, who didn't take rerun for the position because it was so stressful, is advocating for a cut in this position. I oppose this, as did our board unanimously did not favor this move. But again, we're going to acquiesce to the greater good here. I want to point out in the study that was just talked about, there was a government structure committee that did a study about the structure of our government, and it was not in their recommendations to make the first selected salary a part-time position, nor to cut the salary. There were a lot of recommendations in there, and that can be found online. We put that out in weekly updates. I will also say that in the tenure that I've been here anyway, we actually cut expenses in the office, which was not something that is taken into effect. So we used to have a full-time secretary in the office and now a part-time secretary. So actually the costs have come down in the selectman's office. And I think Mr. Gross pointed out the fact that it was our board's opinion that should have been left alone. So, but again, we're coming together for consensus here. The Board of Finance moved forward with a cut in that. We are at the town meeting where this will go to referendum. So, the people's voices will be heard in one way or the other. But I just want to be clear. This is not the first selecting position. I can be the best suited to tell you this is not a part-time position. While I may not be sitting in town hall many hours of the day, I think everyone can attest to the fact that, the work is definitely getting done, and there's a lot of work to be done. It's not something that can be done in a part-time fashion. Now, you can cut the salary of the first selected. My personal opinion as a resident taxpayer is that you're cutting the playing field of candidates, and I don't think that was a good idea. I think we want to see the most candidates possible put their names forward. As I made public, I'm not running again for the position, but I do look forward to seeing hopefully a plethora of interest in the position.
Anything online? Anyone who hasn't commented? Want to comment?
You want want to check with online, Lisa?
Is there an online?
Sorry.
No.
I'll be here for another 20 minutes. I want everybody to believe today we are in the 21st century. Here we want to turn back to the 19th and 20th century. Today, I was selecting, putting in 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, paying all his expenses, airfare in Washington, lodging in Washington, all his own gas going to Hartford, and all his own meals. And you won't find anybody in Hartford or to find that damn thing get wrong. The days of Nick and Elaine are no longer here. We don't have that type of gentleman anymore. Our society will not allow that to be done anymore. We've got to stay with the way it is. I think this year, my board of selectmen show, you can't do without it. We hired a financial administrator, we can't get her to get her job done. She's doing the first selectman's job. I'd love to be able to get more out of Chris, but she's working her butt off doing the first selectman's job. So, to you, it's a full-time job, no matter how you cut it. So you take the salary you pay the administrator, take the salary you pay them. Yeah, get what you want from us. Can I stay or can I just put that?
Just 2 more minutes.
Is that better? Good. Well, this is a closing note. A lot of stuff that Sean and I started, school project, the emergency services, variety of other things are done, we're now enjoying. Maybe not planning for, that goes along with it. But we have a great town, great people that really makes the town. And there was a lot of categories passed around tonight. One was missed. Served in town about 40 years. I've seen a lot of various positions. We have one now. I hope it doesn't disappear soon, which is the superintendent. He's done the best job in that position that I've seen over the 40 years. I've got someone in the school system now that comes home and squeals. And it's not complaints. It's good stuff. This is a town that you can live in, be proud of it. Very low, almost no crime. We got some. It's mostly out of sight. There were a few things I don't think we're going to get corrected in this budget. But I think we'll have additional dialogue on the type of things that Joe brought up, various staffing and other things that maybe we can look at in government and maybe make some refinements. The only thing I'm disappointed in this budget is nothing in the capital. That's not a good plan. I mean, if you put 0 in the capital except for a steep grant, that means that you're not going to do anything. And if you don't have planning and you have continual input to capital, you're going to pay later. Thank you.
County Board, Edwards Road. What I would like to suggest to everybody is that they listen to their own feelings, their own hearts, and their own common sense last few meetings, we've had a total, if a total, less than 100 people representing the town of over 5,000 people who are dictating what should and shouldn't be done. I would say it's the same few that are bringing up negativity in our town, and I would like to see more influence by more of the population when it comes to these types of meetings. Thank you.
Any other comments? Brian?
Maybe I can clear something up. I think everybody thinks I'm totally anti-education, but not. The educators in our town include the whole school system. And I think there's ways that they can cut back. We're in this town, we're all in it together. I keep hearing those words. That's what they are, words. When I see 97%, 97 or 95, I'm not sure. They change every time I publish. We all got to get it. The rebound we had, I think, was totally unfair. I come out, measured my house, measured my buildings, and then says, this is how much it's worth. I wish I could go do that. That's a great job. Anyways, my taxes will go up 51.7%. I think building at 298, we should just put a sign right on it. Stay out, vote to take it down, let's get it down. If it falls down, we take it down, doesn't matter, just don't use it. Was it good enough for our kids? It's good for nobody. Recreation that we provide in town is awful lot. We got a state forest of 800 acres in this town. We have ponds, we have rivers, we have fishing, we can go hunting. We have, then I'm not sure, I'd like to ask about this flight and napping. I have people flying over my house now. I really don't want that. They fly high. So anyways, I'm gonna vote no, because I'd like to see this whole budget rehashed, include everybody in this town, not just some. Thank you.
I can answer it again. Just to Nick's point about capital improvements, I agree with you. I think, I feel bad because we slept and put together a group of people to be a capital improvements committee that, having been on several committees already, you put a lot of hours and volunteer a lot of hours. And then, the recommendations that they made with regard to what capital improvements should be made this year and the following years, basically just get cut out. I understand it this year. We have, we're in COVID, and a lot of decisions that were made by the Board of Finance, because I'm on the Board of Finance, took that into account. I want everyone to know that. But I agree that we're doing ourselves a disservice cutting this capital improvements out year after year because it's easy fruit. We're going to be in trouble later on. One other comment is I coach soccer for U12, my daughter, and I go to town to town to town. And they have beautiful fields. Brian, I disagree. Recreation is our kids need that, and we should be putting more money into our fields, and we should have money in our education budget, but our fields for our high school they're not what they should be. Nick, I appreciate your point.
Pam?
Again, good evening, Dan Spring, 31 Manassas Road. want to sum things up a little bit. I've been involved with finances of the town since 2010. For our long-standing first selectman, very closely in 2010 and the years thereafter. Back in 2010, somebody may remember, we had the great rainfall that took out the dam, and sent water down Main Street, knocked out 3 of our bridges, and we had to say to ourselves, what now? Well, think it as first selectman, this is part of the duties of first selectman, headed up the task of getting those bridges rebuilt, which was millions of dollars. And I would tell you back then, our resources were slim. Our unassigned budget was less than 2% of our expenditure budget. And it's like, where's the money coming from? So that was my experience as I started being the steward of the town in 2010. Here we are in 2020. I explained to you that we had a damaged grant list because of the Great Depression, 2000 2009. So we lost $100 million off our grant list. So we'll just do easy math, just keep it easy. We have 5,000 homes in town. It meant that everyone lost $20,000 of value on their home. Well, 2020, we got it back 10 years later. And North Stonington is being recognized as a town that is prudent in their investments, investing in their communities, and serving all residents of the town, and moving the town forward. So in this week, and I work closely with Daryl Delbrosa, the assessor, we compared other towns like ours that were in the same cycle in terms of revaluation. Well, it was 1 to 3%. We came up 8%. And it's because there's value here in this town. And it brings vitality to the town. It's becoming more robust. You can feel it. And only the jobs in our town, certainly are public safety. Very proud of what they do, our volunteers there, and our school district. If I can take a minute more, I want to clear up the story about the position of first selectman. I've sat on a lot of committees in town, and one of them happened to be the government construction committee. Nita Kincaid is the only other person in this room who sat with me on that committee. And we took many months, looked at a number of studies as to, for a town our size, where does the benefit come? Where does the value come in terms of our administrative team? And it turned out it was to be a triad, a team of 3 people, which was Julia Hodge's position, our first selectman's position, and our new hire, financial administrator, Christine Diaz. And it's the 3 of them working together that develops the dynamics to move the town forward, as well as meeting day-to-day expectations of our residents. So going part-time in first selectman was only one of the options. It wasn't the recommendation of the government structure committee. And I think Nita Kincaid, our first selectman, will validate that. So just a few things that I wanted to bring forth to clarity. We do have a great town here. It's a great town of North Stonington that we have built even better over the last 10 years, and will do so as we move forward. I ask for your support of this one.
Just one question, Dan. And you spoke so great between the selectmen and administrator. Are you telling me that the Board of Finance supports putting it going back into the first select? Or kicking it out? It's going to be an interim.
I think in terms of bringing in a quality person, the Board of Finance would be open to looking at the best qualified candidate and what it would take to bring that person to the town of Austin.
Does that mean interim?
Nancy, Joe,
That's a
Nancy,
simple question, that's all.
it's out right now.
Okay, that's all.
That's and the board wasn't unanimous on it, but that's the decision that was made forward.
I also want to break down here, let's see, I went through the cost there too. Also want you to know that the Board of Finance reduced the selectmen's budget, $333,602. And that helped them get this budget down to 2.8%. That is fact. I back that up with fact. We also got the 5-year plan. I would like everybody to look at, by the way we're doing our budget. If you take the one in 2019, it was out, and then I went to take a look at the one that's out there. This is the Board of Finance, every member. Look at the one that's out there in November 2020. Look what's going on, fellas. You're not doing nothing here and buying the stuff. It's all going down and it's disappearing. It's coming up somewhere down there. Our 5-year plan is almost a 0-year plan. It has no meaning, no value. It's here. Fact. The Board of Selectmen, they do have a breakdown in their budget. You can go through this cycle. What is fixed? What is salary? What is insurance? What is that? I backed that up with fact. That is mine. Here's the line items that were taken out by the Board of Finance, which support that, and they did go into salaries. We did take out money out of fixed charges and some of the public safety. Fact. I say that because there was a first definition of opinion. I want my comments made as fact. Opinion is a view. Belief is stronger than impression and less strong than the positive knowledge. Fact brings out the actual evidence. Fact finder, it shows notes. One of those facts. We have a 219 strategic plan, fellas, and everybody, please. You know what we done with this, don't you? Same thing. Put it down. We don't do much. I support the Board of Ed budget. I have the Board of Ed budget with me. I reviewed the Board of Ed budget. Board of Finance didn't review it by line item like they did the Board of Selectmen. But I gotta say that when I went down, the superintendent, the business manager, went through all of my concerns, and they were explained. And I agree with the comments that was made earlier by the Board of Ed. It's easier for me to talk to them than to you, so don't take anything back. Any concerns I ever had, I got to explain. Any concerns I have with the Board of Selectmen, I go and I get it explained through Chris. I got to explain it to Board of Finance. I don't get too much. I get 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you. When you get a thank you, people, that don't mean much. That means nothing. That's almost as good as your vote. That's what they told me. My vote today is only as good as tomorrow morning. And they showed it when we took $1 million of them up to 298, and we're here today trying to talk stuff. I believe that the Board of Selectmen and them did the same hard work that the other boards did. I know the Board of Ed did a lot. I know the Board of Finance put in a lot of time, a lot of effort. I think they could have done a better job. I ask you all, and anybody that's listening, please support me with the Board of Ed's budget. That budget should be supported. Please, the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen budget, turn it down until we get that selectmen salary for the.
Yeah.
Berlin Powell, 495 Providence, London Turnpike.
Talk a little louder.
I just wanted to thank all the volunteers in our town. I think we rely very heavily on them. And I would just encourage people to find compassion and empathy where they can right now. I think a lot of people are struggling. I think I have a unique situation where my whole family, I don't have any young children at school, but my son is a young adult who can't afford to live in town. My husband and I live here. My mother-in-law also lives here and she's elderly. But all of us have volunteered a lot, all of our lives. And I think if more people could volunteer and meet the needs where they see them, or pay it forward, I think we'd be in a much better place than we're at right at this very moment, where I think people want to vote their pocketbooks, but we have to find a way to make it work for everybody. I applaud the teachers and just the people that have had to work this year through the whole pandemic. It has not been an easy year. And for people, I mean, I can imagine I worked myself the entire year. I was not laid off. I did not work from home. So I can only imagine what it must have been like for people who are teachers, or parents who have students at home learning at home, or both. So just, I think people really need to take a deep breath and just really reflect on what everyone's gone through the past year and how can we come out of this and make things better for everybody going forward. So, just, you know, have some compassion, find your empathy, and volunteer. We need help. There's many things that people can do to get involved, and that helps save tax dollars as well. So if you have ideas, then bring them forward. We can make it better, but we all have to be trying to work with the same goal and lifting our community up rather than breaking apart by arguing about money.
Tell you what I do on studies.
You got this.
On studies. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've been first selectman 28 years, Board of Finance for 7 years, selectman for 6 years. Council of small towns, which is made up of 115 towns of up to 25,000 people. Council of Government, Local 1 is 20 towns. That has a meeting of about 20 of the first selectmen, mayors, and the head of the council. The Council of Small Towns has a board of directors meeting of about 30 first selectmen, mayor, managers, things like that. The sector, which I was president for 3 years, has a representative from almost every town and studies. Connecticut is 169 towns, one shoe doesn't fit anything else. In the future, I think we have to look at studies as what do we have inside and what fits and what do we want to income and then solutions. Also, there isn't anything in most areas that we haven't done that we can't undo or change if we're not happy. And those are the type of things that I love in front of the selectmen, and they'll be put on a hit list and start looking at it again. The one I like to look at again is the fire department. I made a request to fund them for the second per diem person. That didn't happen. I think that's an injustice. That's messing with public safety. I think
It's been 2 minutes. You can finish your thoughts. Okay.
I talked to our senator today. She's tied up in the Capitol and wouldn't be able to come. And I didn't talk to the legislator. But in the future, we gotta get our legislator here, or maybe have a meeting about the issues we don't like and we'd like to fix those things. Because there is a big list of that. I didn't want to go into big sessions tonight because I don't think it's any value. But I do plan on attending the selectmen meeting and saying, I think we can do better here and there, and I can make recommendations how. Have a recommendation how to do it, don't complain. Ask somebody else to do it, and then we'll put it on the list to talk about. And maybe we ought to just have a general annual meeting, not about the budget, about things in the town, what we want, or what we think we want, or how we want to get to the things that we haven't got, that we'd like to have.
So one more. Just two more minutes, I'd like to move forward. I'd like to move forward for the meeting, so just one more, find out one more thing.
I believe the town has always supported education. Those who haven't been here, except for the past few years, I've been here, my children, my grandchildren, and the all graduated here. I put a school building up over here, a school building up over there. We're putting on a school building this year. This ain't the first school building that I put up. I've supported a lot of school buildings, and the town has been very good. And we can add to the thing. Just a couple of quick things here. I think teachers, I gotta support them 100% because they've taken over the parental responsibilities. They just take the parental responsibilities off our teachers and get them back in the home where they belong to be a lot better. Town workers do a great job. I think it's great. One thing I wanted to ask Christine, I would say is if we bring in money from the Board of Ed that goes into the town budget, which I know it has to. Most of that goes back to the education purposes, don't it? Or they spend that on the town.
We have to request it through the grants. Right now, the tuition money does not come to the Board of Education.
I think we got great people in town. Even though you heard the negative stuff tonight, there's a lot of good positive stuff here. And Nick, like I say, people don't know what the hell they did the first 4 years, but the last half, I'm gonna paint it. We're ready to go over that stuff, and I thank you for that, and talk as much as you can.
Thank you. So as part of the call, the Board of Selectmen had suggested that voting hours take place from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the day of the referendum. So I'd like to ask the board for a motion and a second to accept those voting hours.
Take the motion.
I have to take the motion first and then we'll do discussion.
So moved.
Mike Anderson makes the first motion. Second. And Noah. The motion is, the Board of Selectmen are suggesting that the voting hours take place on the day of the referendum from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we made a motion and seconded for that, and now the floor is open for discussion.
Taking my hat off for a minute, the register of voters, and I am requesting if we could take the
Speak
hours.
up.
If we can take the hours for the referendum vote to 12 noon to 8 p.m. Understanding that last year was an aberration, the year before, on the budget, we had a total of 855 people vote out of over 4,000. In the early mornings from 6 a.m. to 11, 202 people voted, which was an average of 40 people per hour. Last referendum we had last year was voting on the school building. We had an enormous turnout. We did that between 12 and 8 a.m. The other concern I have is we are having difficulty finding volunteers to work. As Carolyn talked about, volunteering is these volunteers should get paid. However, the hours are a 14-hour day, and we do understand that there are state regulations and state votes that we do have to do the longer hours. But for a resident, I'm recommending at this time, because if I can't get enough people to work, then I can't get them to work. So I'm just suggesting.
I'll just comment. So under almost any circumstance, and the selectmen have not discussed this, so I want to be clear, I'm talking as first selectman on behalf of the selectmen. Under normal circumstances, I would vehemently oppose restricting the hours from 12 to 8. And that we should be open from 6 to 8 because people cannot get there, some people. The only reason I would consider that discussion is that because of the governor's executive orders right now, no excuse absentee ballots are available and be able to use for this vote. So those will be available tomorrow morning via the town clerk. So technically, if somebody couldn't get there between 12 and 8, they could get an absentee ballot. I would never advocate for this in any other year because of but I mean, I'm not advocating for it at all. I just want to make sure people are aware during this discussion that if we did change the hours to 12 to 8 for this one vote, that would be the only reason I could see doing it, because no excuse absentee ballots are available. With that being said, I don't favor changing the hours. I think it should be from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So everyone can have a chance to vote.
We technically can't change it because it's been advertised and the requirement to have teams within a week.
That's
And not be altered in fashion in accordance with the state statutes. We're locked into what we've got to do. What do you mean?
No,
Can't change it.
it was advertised as the hours would be set by the town meeting. So we can't change the call. We can't change anything about the call, but we can change the hours if we wanted to. That was advertised as the town meeting will set the hours. Yes, that's by statute, that's actually how it's supposed to be done.
Are you gonna put another ad in the paper then?
It's not necessary, well, we will let people know what the hours are, yes. There will be another ad in the paper.
I really question that. You better double check.
No, it's true.
Believe me, Nick, I double checked it.
And Mike, a few years ago, I can recall, and my buddy Emil Kovac is the guy that brought it up. And we wanted that vote to be changed and eliminated to 6 in the morning. And I can't recall, but please check on that because I know all hell broke out about that. We had to have it from 6 and that there, but I don't know what the law is.
Wouldn't be North Stonington unless all hell broke out on stuff, so.
It's a tough. I remember we had that 2 years back.
It's by statute, we've already checked on it, it's by statute that the town meeting is actually supposed to set the hours. It's usually just a cursory approval of what the selectmen recommend, but as you can hear, there's been a comment to discuss about potentially changing it. The motion on the floor is to move this forward with hours from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's what the discussion is right now.
Is there further discussion? Any other comments regarding the hours from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Lisa.
Nita? Can you come to the microphone?
I understand what Connie is saying about the number of hours, et cetera. I think it was in the-
Now again.
Now you can hear. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but it's out there for people to know already. We're going to make it confusion. I think we should stick with what we have now, and then the next time we have something, we will think about it ahead of time.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment or discussion regarding hours?
Just make, if I could, Lisa, one more comment. I mean, Connie brings up a good point, even though she was taking off her registrar hat, putting on a taxpayer hat. We can never take off our hats, by the way. We own those positions, so we're in always. But we need more people to sign up to be poll workers. It is a paid position, so that's not going to help us for this vote. We're just going to need our poll workers to step up. This time, we're gonna ask for them to do that as they have for every other vote. But we do need more poll workers, so.
That's it. I don't have enough step forward to help.
Fine, I can't hear you.
All right, well.
Okay, so
What we're shy of is Republican and unaffiliated to help work the polls. As we stand, given the understanding that we were working from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., we do not have enough people to work the full day. Even if I do it in shifts, I don't have enough people. Those that were poll workers are no longer poll workers. People don't want to do it. And I'm sorry, I'm being very honest with you. We are making phone call after phone call for getting people to come.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is, accepting hours 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So I would like to move forward with that, move the question forward. All in favor of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., signify by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The date is May 17th, will be the referendum is May 17th. So I would ask for a motion to move the question to referendum. A motion on the floor to move the question to referendum. Dan Orloff, motion, second. Mary Ann Ricker. All in favor of moving the budget to referendum, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn. Mike Anderson, second. Joe Crow. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Great job.